First time at 1 million cups? Thank you for coming this morning. So I'll tell you a little bit about it. So this is run by the Kauffman Foundation. So it's actually a nationwide program. This is the Little Rock chapter. So these are all over the nation, 70 different places in the country hold 1 million cups at the same time Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. So this is a great place to connect with other entrepreneurs, and we do that via social media. So hashtag 1MC, follow us at 1 million cups Little Rock on Twitter. And then throughout the whole program, if you want to tweet or whatever, that's great, because at this time all over the nation, all the other entrepreneurs are also telling their stories, and you can connect with them that way. FYI, if you pitch at any 1 million cups, you have the passport program. You can go to any other 1 million cups in the nation and pitch there too. So anyway, so this is the 1 million cups Little Rock, free coffee for everyone. Thank you to the Venture Center for hosting this today. And this morning we have Diems Against Poverty. This is Jennifer, the executive director, and she's going to tell us a little bit about it. We're going to have a lot of time for Q&A at the end, so just write down your questions and think about them throughout the program, and feel free to ask anything at the end. Let's go ahead and welcome Jennifer.
On here. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this morning. I'm so excited to tell you about our new nonprofit, Diems Against Poverty, and what we've been up to for the past year. I don't know if any of you were expecting my co-founder, Brittany, but if you are, I apologize. She's the one that normally does a lot of the speaking engagements. So I will get right into it. So basically, a little over a year ago, I would have never thought that in March I was going to be on CBS This Morning with Curtis Granderson. It's one of those things where life takes a turn, and you just have to seize the opportunity. So it was 2015, I think in March 2015, my co-founder, Brittany Hodak, was on Shark Tank with her startup, her entertainment marketing company, ZinePack. And she was on Shark Tank. And when she was there for filming in Los Angeles over those few days, she received a per diem. And she didn't even think about this as part of her, meal allowances for the time she was there, because she's thinking, I would have eaten anyway while I'm here. And so the producer calls her at the end of those few days and says, hey, you need to come down and get your envelope filled with like $200 in cash for just a couple of days worth of meals. And she's thinking, I don't need this much money to eat. And that just the light bulb went off in her brain, and she thought, how many people are receiving per diems that don't rely on that money to feed themselves? And what good could that do for the millions of Americans that are struggling with hunger? And then so she started to think about that, and the wheels were turning. And then when she comes home, of course, we're first cousins too. I might mention that as well. We're first cousins. So she was home over Thanksgiving, and everyone was asking her about Shark Tank because we wanted to know how it went. But of course, she couldn't tell us anything yet because it hadn't aired. And we were talking, and she said, I kept thinking about this and what a problem it is in America. She said, did you know that 48 million Americans are struggling with hunger every single day? That's here in our country. That's not somewhere else. That's here. And it's in every community nationwide, not just inner cities, but in rural communities as well. And we started talking about this. I thought, wow, that is, I can't even wrap my mind around that, because you think of America, you think, the land where there's limitless opportunity and there's so many resources, and it's not a lack of food. How is this a problem? And so the more we talked about it, we're like, we've got to do something about this. And Brittany, she's like, I don't have, a lot of extra time. I'm already running my own company. And I said, well, don't worry about that. You don't have to run it, because I'm run it for you, and we're going to start this together, because it has always been a of mine to give back to my community, and it's something that I think is innate. It was born with, and also growing up in a family that was very proactive in their community and always eager to give back. I previously had worked in the for-profit sector in business administration, and I had quit my job after I had my first child to stay at home with my daughter and raise her. And I have two children. And so when all this came about, I had been staying at home with my children. And I'd been thinking, when I go back to work, what do I want to do? I don't want to just go back to in the for-profit sector and work for a corporation. I want to do something really meaningful that I can care about and really put my heart and soul into. And so this was the perfect opportunity to do that. And so it was a no-brainer. I literally glanced at my husband and I was like, yes, of course I'm going to do this with you, not knowing at all what that meant and the work that went into it and how you start something literally from nothing. And so we tackled that. And basically what came from that initial conversation was Diems Against Poverty. And what we are, we're a 501c3 nonprofit. We reallocate donated per diems from corporations and individuals such as professional athletes, entertainers, and business executives to the Feeding America food bank of their choice nationwide to help provide meals for Americans struggling with hunger. And that is what we do. And we give 100% of all donations given to our nonprofit go to our cause. We don't take any percentage of that for administration or executive fees. 100% of every dollar we receive goes to the Feeding America food bank designated by our donors. And we've been very blessed to be able to do that so far over this past year. So, like I said, with every entrepreneur, as you know, for entrepreneurs, you see a problem, you want to fix it. And I never really saw myself as an entrepreneur. I always saw my co-founder as an entrepreneur. She is one of those people from the time we were little. We were always coming up with these crazy business ideas from running a bakery together, and we'd always wanted to do something meaningful together as little girls because we're 10 months apart in age, and so we grew up very close. Our moms are sisters. And we see a problem like this, and of course Brittany is like, great, I can help fix that. And that's just how she is, and that's how generous her heart is. And I never saw myself as an entrepreneur, but I always had a very mission-minded approach to life and wanting to be involved in helping my community. And so it's a perfect marriage of my administration background and her marketing background and running her own business that it just made sense to do this together. And as Brittany had said previously on a CBS This Morning piece, that was the closest thing that she's ever experienced to a higher power, telling her, you need to do this. And so 1 in 7 Americans struggle with hunger every day. 1 in 7. That's over 48 million Americans. 1 in 6 Arkansans struggle with hunger. And I know that makes it hit even closer to home. This is 1 in 6 people that you would encounter every single day when you're going to work, when you're coming home, when you're in the grocery store. Odds are, if you're in a grocery store line with 6 people, one of those 6 people, they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. This may be the only shopping trip they have for 2 months, and they have to feed their family of 4, 5, or 6 on $100 worth of groceries. And as we all know, if you've been grocery shopping lately, that doesn't go very far. So it's a problem here. And I'm sure you all are familiar with it, but per diems are allowance or payment made for each day, and they're contractual agreements made in a lot of industries, such as professional sports and the film industry, and then a lot of unionized companies. Their employees are mandated to receive per diem allowances for meals and travel while they are on the road for their jobs. So this was our first picture that we took for our website, which is kind of funny. This is actually in my dining room, and I happen to have this map canvas in the background. And it probably looks like it was a long time ago, because if y'all see me very often, you'll probably notice that I have a different hairstyle every few weeks. So it looks like it's a long time apart, but it's really just within the past year. So, but like I said, 48 million Americans struggle with hunger, but 46 million Americans depend on food banks for meals every year. And there is a food bank, a Feeding America food bank. There's a network of 200 nationwide, and there is one located that in every region that serves literally every community nationwide, and also in U.S. territories as well. So 46 million Americans, you think of that, oh, that's a big number, but that is literally equal to the population of 24 U.S. states. That's almost half our country. That's a big problem. And And I know it's a sobering fact and something we don't like to look at, but 12 million of those Americans are children, and 7 million of them are senior citizens. So a lot of the people in this that are struggling with food insecurity don't actually have a way of helping themselves. And so that's kind of something that a hurdle you have to get across when you're thinking about hunger. A lot of people think, oh, it's people that, don't want to work. They just want to depend on other people to help them. But that's not always the case. A lot of people live paycheck to paycheck now, and it's a decision between, do I feed my family? Do I pay my mortgage? And a lot of people are one paycheck away from, if they lose their job, having to make that decision. So it's very real for a lot of people. Like I said, Feeding America is a nationwide network of 200 member food banks, which made a lot of sense for us to partner with them. Literally, the week that we incorporated, we took it upon ourselves to call up their partnerships division and pitch this idea to them and say, we want to partner with you. And it just made sense that they're the largest hunger fighting organization in America with the largest reach to every community. So it made sense for us not to figure out our own distribution network when we co-founded our nonprofit. So we decided to try and partner with them and give 100% of all of our donations to the Feeding America Food Bank of our donors' choice. And so that is, these are the people they serve. Feeding America Network serves 46.5 million people each year and provides 67% of groceries and 33% of meals. So that's the impact that they're having nationwide. And also they have 98% of all funds received by Feeding America go to their cause, which is another reason that we decided to partner with them, because frugality is one of our core values, and we were looking for that in a partner as well. So nationwide, 14.3% of Americans are struggling with hunger, but like I said, in Arkansas, it's 19.9%, which is quite a bit of difference. And needs like these don't exist in isolation. Usually there's an interconnectedness among the nonprofit community, and now where hunger fighting organizations and organizations that are trying to help people with housing and healthcare are trying to come together and fight poverty on a totally different level, rather than saying, well, we're going to help people in this area and we're going to help people in this one. They're coming together and say, how can we help people as a whole and give them a hand up and get them out of poverty? That way, all of these areas of their life, can reach a sort of balance. And it's also something we didn't even realize, that food insecurity on this level is not a universal problem. As you can see, all of these countries down here, you'll find the United States on this end of the spectrum with countries that you wouldn't expect to see those levels in. Sorry, I'll get out of the way. With Mexico, Turkey, Hungary, Chile, Estonia, Poland, Greece, we are among the highest levels of food insecurity and of families that have in the past 12 months not been able to afford food. And you would think that we would be more in this side over here with countries like Sweden, Norway, Belgium, the UK, Finland, Ireland, but that's not the case. And here in America, a lot of that is 40% of food goes uneaten in the United States every year. So it's not a problem of food production. It's a problem of food waste. That's literally $165 billion in resources that are wasted every single year. Basically, teaching people to curtail their own food waste practices and coming up with a better way to get food to the people that need it, because a lot of food, as you know, when you go to the grocery store, there are sell-by dates and there are expiration dates. So when you purchase food, there's a sell-by date that the store has to sell that food by, and if not, they have to throw it out. So Feeding America, one of the things that they do is they have contracts with grocers like Walmart, Target, Whole Foods, different grocers across the country, and they go and rescue this food from these grocers that would otherwise be thrown away, or even food that doesn't even make it to market that's deemed unedible because it looks weird. Like literally, if it's not the normal shape of an apple, it's thrown out, even though it's just as nutritious and just as edible. So they are working to remove that stigma about what our food looks like and basically save as much of that food as they can, get it to the food banks, and then where their member nonprofits in the community can distribute to those in need. So the simple ways that that people can help is spreading the word about what we're doing in Diems Against Poverty. Like I said, we partner with professional athletes and executives, and then also we work more within the entertainment sector because they do have higher than average salaries as well as higher than average per diems. The average professional athlete receives a $100 per day per diem for every day they're on the road, and they travel a lot. So one pro baseball player alone will receive approximately $10,000 in per diems for this season alone, which brings me to one of our professional athlete partners who donated his $10,000 per diem to benefit 6 communities in America of his choosing, which resulted in over 110,000 meals just from one person. So, which is huge. It's not just donating money, but it's donating food time and curtailing your own food waste, as I said, because if you think about it, a lot of times we buy things we don't need and then it goes to waste. And so just being conscious of that, because even if you purchase something and let it go bad, even if it were to stay in the market, there is that chance that it could be rescued and then given to someone else who does need that food. So anyway, I'm going to close up here with a little story. Brittany and I, when we committed to this, we decided if we can just help one person, then that was enough. I got a call around last Thanksgiving from someone that I went to high school with, and he found out about what we were doing and about the nonprofit and how we were helping the community, and said, I have an aunt and she needs some assistance. That she literally doesn't have any food to feed her children for the next week. She had been out of work. She has 3 young children in the home. Can you help her? And I said, yes. I had been doing a virtual food drive to benefit the River Valley Food Bank in Fort Smith, and I had a couple of boxes left over. I said, yeah, I can meet her on Monday. That's great. He said, can you meet her tomorrow morning? I said, Monday's too long. And I said, yes, I'll meet her, at 10 o'clock and Monday morning. And she didn't have reliable transportation, so I drove over. She lived in Muldrow, Oklahoma. And so I drove to meet up with her, and I gave her these boxes of food. She got out, and as soon as she saw the food, there were tears in her eyes. And she said, you have no idea what this means to me and my family. And it's something I would take for granted, is 2 boxes of food. And she said, we couldn't afford this much food in a month. And she said, this didn't just make my day, this made my year. And she, was in tears, and then I was in tears, and the whole thing, and I get back in the car, and I have my 2 children with me. My daughter's 4 now, and I got back in the car. She said, Mommy, why are you and that lady crying? I said, honey, they're happy tears. And so I said, it's being able to help that person in need, and it made me realize that if that's the only person that we affect and that we can help through what we're doing through Diems Against Poverty, it's worth it. So, thank you.
Thanks, Jennifer. So we're going to open it up for questions. Make sure you say your name and where you're from before you ask your question.
James Hendren here with the Venture Center. Since you don't take any of the donations for the corporation, how do you cover your overhead as you grow larger? and you need to pay some employees so you can do more and more? How do you cover those expenses?
Ideally, we rely solely upon private donations and corporate and government grants to fund our overhead expenses, which we have yet to receive any. So I've had the privilege of working for free for over a year now. And my husband actually works 2 full-time jobs so that I can do this full-time. So we have a lot of support, and my generous co-founder has been footing the bill out of pocket for any needs that we've had, from startup expenses up to this point. So we're hoping at some point that will be the case, but that's just how much we care about this. We believe that it's going to strike a chord with people.
Hey, I'm Joe Calhoun Law Firm here in Little Rock.
Hi.
Great story. I mean, great way to start my morning. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
When you get people to agree to donate, are you already going directly to the person who's paying, or are you waiting for the money to get to that person and then they have to make a second decision when they get the check to send it your way? Are you in the process of kind of short-circuiting that?
Yes, well, ideally this is how it happens. In Curtis Granderson, for example, of the Mets, who spoke out on our behalf in Major League Baseball, he literally found about it one day. His agent told him what we were doing. He said, "How can I get involved?" And he overnighted a $10,000 check, which is the equivalent of his per diems that he would receive for this baseball season. So you have people that are beyond generous like that who, just hear about something and they say, "Oh, I want to help. Where can I send the check?" And that's ideal, obviously. But we have what we call the per diem pledge form for individuals who want to contribute to their local Feeding America food bank or one in another location. And so what we do is they pledge those per diems for a certain period of time or season, if you're talking about athletes, or in perpetuity. And they can send those to us. Generally, it's in quarterly installments. They'll send us those payments, and then every quarter we send 100% of those funds to Feeding America. And I personally keep track of the food banks that are designated for each funds, and we have our donor management system that we use that tracks all of our donations, and then I designate those to go to their particular food bank, and that happens every quarter. It's distributed. So there are actually several different ways depending on the industry that it works. Someone can be as generous as Curtis and say, "Okay, here's a check," or generally it would be a pledge. That way, once they receive those funds, then they send those to us, and then we get those to the Feeding America food bank that they've designated them for.
And congratulations on this. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
And thanks so much for coming this morning. A question for you though, as this is an entrepreneurial center, you've got a lot of smart, problem-solving people in here. I don't take any money and my husband works 2 jobs isn't a long-term viable business model. Have you thought about what the next step is, seeing how you have some very, very interesting donors and different things? What is next?
Very good question. We've had this conversation a lot recently. Obviously, we can't do this forever, but we are 100% committed to seeing it through until that does change. I have applied for numerous grants. It's not that I'm just sitting back and waiting for someone to, to write us a check or anything like that. We've been applying for grants. What's kind of interesting in the nonprofit sector is oftentimes you have to have a proven track record, and you have to have received a certain amount of donations going toward your cause before a lot of foundations and a lot of corporations will consider you for grant giving programs. But then also the flip side of that is that it's a catch-22 because you need those startup funds in order to grow and to keep going and to reach more people. So we have been very fortunate to have a lot of generous people donate their time and helping us reach out and spread the word pro bono, which has been great. But yes, you're absolutely right. Going forward, there has to be an endpoint, and we're hoping that was yesterday. But thankfully, we have a lot of support from our family, and we're willing to do this as long as it takes.
Would anybody be upset with you if you said, okay, we're going to give 95% and keep 5%? Because I look at, like the institution that you're donating to doesn't give 100% away. Right. They keep some for administration, and that might solve a little more problems. A lot of people who want to give feel more comfortable giving to a sustainable organization. And if everything goes out the window and you're not feeding your family and taking care of yourself for this wonderful work you're doing, then the model's not sustainable. But there's a holdback or a fear or something that keeps you from taking a portion of that for administration.
That's a very good question as well. We are actually following a model of, I'm sure you've all heard of Garth Brooks and his nonprofit, Teammates for Kids. We are following a model that they have. They have a 100% giving model, and they depend solely upon the foundation to fund their overhead expenses, and it's been sustainable, and it's been ongoing for well over 10 years now, and they work one-on-one with professional athletes to give back to kids. And we have seen this work, and we know that it's possible. And we honestly want to feed as many people as possible. So if that means we're not going to take a percentage and we're not going to get paid, we're prepared to do that, because ultimately we weren't starting this as a money-making venture. We really want to help solve the problem of hunger in America. We don't, obviously there are business administrative issues to deal with, but we've seen this model be successful, and there are a number of other charities, very few, that do that. But Charity Water is another organization that we really admire, and they have a 100% giving policy as well. Once you reach a certain number of donors, then you're eligible, since we are nationwide. Then you're eligible for some of these huge grants from foundations, such as Walmart and Target, and these that do give large sums of money to fund overhead for nonprofit organizations such as ours.
Mike Steely, by the way. Sorry, didn't understand. So another question for you. So thinking again of in-game side, seems to be there's a lot of metrics around this. There's a lot of measurable results. People giving, people being, receiving on that end. Have you thought about how you're going to track all that information? Again, this is a place filled with smart people with technology background and ways they might be able to help. Is there a way you gauge your performance?
Yes, there is, and part of that is actually through our partner, Feeding America. They have what they call Map the Meal Gap, and they do a lot of this research, which we have 100% rights to use, and to use their logo in their research. They've done a lot of this research, which has made it a lot easier for us to stand by our 100% giving policy. But one thing we do is we do have our donor management system that we pay for, that tracks the number of donors, and it lets us know where that money is going to. And then I have reports that I give to Feeding America, our partnerships division, and they will let me know exactly how much money has gone to each of these food banks in different locations nationwide, and the number of meals that are able to be provided as a result of those donations. So in essence, the metrics of it were already set up, which is a big plus for us by partnering with Feeding America, because they're very good about doing their due diligence. And so by partnering with them, it made it a lot easier for us to track our donations and make sure that they're going to the proper channels and to be able to tell exactly how many meals are being provided as a result of our donations.
Any other questions? I have one. So what is your strategy for reaching out to the baseball players or whomever is going to donate?
Well, it's been interesting for sure. Basically how we started, I didn't realize I was so good at sleuthing, but I basically just started getting on these different baseball websites on connecting with people in baseball marketing, connecting with agents, reaching out to different agencies about their players. But one of the first things was determining who at the team level we needed to connect with to get this in front of their players, which more often is the player relations department. And so I would get on that particular team's website across all leagues, not just baseball, but NHL, NBA, NFL, done it all, and get on there, get the name of the person. If their email's not listed, figure it out, email that person, get them on the phone with me, pitch our program to them, and see about them getting it in front of their players. So it's not pretty, but it's worked. And that's, and it's been hours and lots of hours of, figuring out the right person to talk to. But we've had a lot of success in that because it is such a different concept, and this is literally an untapped resource of funds used to fight hunger. No one has ever done this before. So many people are open to the idea, especially in pro sports, given their high salaries and high per diem rates that are mandated by the unions. So they've been really receptive of it, but it's literally just getting down and doing our research and getting in touch with the right people. So.
Cool. Okay, so we end all 1 million cups the same way, which is by asking you what's one thing we can do for you as a community.
As a community, really the number one thing, if you know someone who receives per diems, let them know about what we're doing. If they do not depend on those funds for food themselves and would be feeding themselves anyway, just let them know that every dollar counts. It's not a 100% all or nothing program. They can give 50%, 25% of those per diems. Whatever they don't use when they're traveling can be donated, because every dollar equals approximately 11 meals through Feeding America's vast resources through the food rescue and everything that they do. So you give $1, that can literally equal 11 meals for a family. So it's not all or nothing. If you know someone, let them know. If you know a professional athlete, someone that works in film production, let them know what we're doing, and try to get them in touch with us for a phone call. And that's really all we can ask. And also just asking you to rethink how you view hunger in America, and realize that it's not a certain group of people, it's your neighbor.
Great, thank you so much. So their Twitter is perdiems.org. Make sure you follow them and share what they're doing. Thanks for coming today. We don't have any announcements. The Venture Center's FinTech Accelerator started this week, so it's an exciting week in Little Rock. I'm sure you'll be seeing their cohort really soon. But we will see you next week, Wednesday, here at 9 a.m. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.